The Gravity of Desire by J. DeLime. Dedication. For the quiet fire that doesn't ask permission. Acknowledgements. To the hands that steadied me. The eyes that read before the pages were ready. And the city that teaches gravity. To those who asked for the truer line and waited while I found it. Thank you. To queer readers who know the difference between secrecy and privacy, this book bows to you. Whatever holds here is because of you. Whatever slips is mine. Chapter 1. The Silence Between Us. Night gathered in the corners of the bedroom the way steam gathers at the mouth of a kettle, quiet and inevitable, the fan pushing warm air in slow circles. From the street below came the staggered chorus of Lagos. The apartment smelled faintly of lavender detergent and the ghost of last night's stew. Amara watched from the doorway as Selena buttoned a hibiscus-red blouse in the mirror, the color running like a secret across her skin. Thin gold hoop earrings clicked into place with a tiny, decisive sound. Her hair was gathered at the nape in a clean twist Amara loved, exposing the slope of her neck. It should have been ordinary, this getting ready. It had been 100 times before, but tonight, it felt like theater staged at an hour when truth would be easier. On the dresser, beside a familiar bottle of jasmine, sat a new perfume. Dark glass. No label Amara recognized. Selena tipped it once against her wrist, a careful press, then brushed the scented pulse behind each ear. It smelled like rose, smoke threaded with citrus, oud with a soft sweetness that didn't belong to their room. Not wrong, just not theirs. "You're heading out again?" Amara asked, her voice even, body leaning on the doorframe as if it could steady her. Selena smiled at the mirror first, then turned the smile toward her. "Just a drink." "So late?" "Deadlines blur time." Her tone light and practiced. She reached for a small black clutch, the one reserved for dinners that were meant to feel like accidents. "With who?" Amara asked, keeping it gentle. A question folded into a question. "Colleagues," Selena answered, sliding her phone into the clutch. "We're celebrating the pitch." "That's not a name." Selena crossed the room and kissed Amara like punctuation. Soft, grateful, a full stop where the sentence should keep going. "I'll be back soon," she said into her mouth. "I promise." Amara responded, tasting red lipstick and something metallic under it, like the edge of a coin. She let the kiss be what it was, and not what she needed it to be. Selena leaned her forehead to Amara's for a beat, their breaths touching. Up close, Amara saw the newness of the blouse, the way the seams still held a crisp press, the almost invisible tremor in Selena's left hand. "How do I look?" Selena asked, stepping back half a pace and lifting her chin. A twirl would have been too much. She was not a twirler. But the question itself was already a performance. "Like you," Amara said, then softened it. "Beautiful." Selena's mouth curved, relief flashing instantly, and it was gone. "Don't wait up." "I won't," Amara said, the lie soft on her tongue. At the door, Selena paused a heartbeat too long, then left without adding anything more. The apartment exhaled around her absence. Amara didn't linger in the stillness. Pouring herself a glass of wine, she took out her laptop and pulled open the folder she'd been meaning to return to, scouting talent notes for the magazine's next feature. She clicked through portfolios one by one, tagging names, drafting questions, chasing the thrum of discovery that still lit something steady in her chest. The seed of suspicion sat in the corner of the room, but she didn't water it. Instead, she worked. Chapter 2. Fault Lines. Evening's light spilled into the apartment, tinting the walls with a soft amber. Amara set rice to boil, the lid rattling sharp and steady like a heartbeat. Outside, horns tangled with the call of a hawker. A child's shriek of laughter broke against the compound walls when Selena came in. "Smells good," she said, dropping her bag on the counter with a thud too casual. She leaned down, kissing Amara's cheek, quick, glancing, a greeting without weight. They ate facing the window, the city performing its nightly theater beyond the glass, knives and forks tapping like a metronome. Amara shared office gossip while they ate. A colleague's newborn that looks nothing like him, a printer that kept jamming mid-run. Selena nodded in the right places, her smile lit but absent, her phone turned face down on the table like a child hiding something under its palms. "Was it fun?" Amara asked, her voice easy, spooning sauce over her rice. Selena blinked. "Fun?" "Last night, with your colleagues." A beat passed. "Yes," she replied, reaching for her glass too quickly. It felt good to be out after weeks on the grind. "Who all was there?" Selena's smile sharpened, a blade dressed as charm. "You know some of them. BC from accounts, Tayo, that whole crew." Amara nodded slowly, as though cataloging details she wasn't sure mattered yet. With the dishes done, they moved through the domestic choreography of the night. Leftover containers labeled, counters wiped. Clean. When their fingers brushed over a stack of shirts while putting laundry away, neither lingered nor pulled away. Then Selena reached first, her hand settling at Amara's hip as she leaned in, lips grazing the line of her neck. "It's been a while," she murmured, her breath warm. Amara hesitated, but only for a second before turning into the kiss. Their mouths met with the heat of memory, the taste of wine sharpening everything. Selena pressed harder, hips already seeking rhythm. Amara let herself be pulled, her skin sparking under familiar touch. Fingers tugged at fabric as the room narrowed to breath and heat. The couch caught them, creaking under their weight as they pressed closer, searching for something steady inside the urgency. Selena's touch was hot, greedy, almost desperate. Her mouth dragged down Amara's chest, sucking hard at her until she gasped. She spread her thighs, guiding Selena's hand down, her moan breaking when fingers pushed into her. Fast, relentless, wet sounds filling the air. "Fuck," Amara gasped, clutching at her shoulders as Selena entered her harder. Her mouth still at her breast, hips grinding as if she could pull them both under. Heat crashed over her as her body tensed, breaking apart in waves. Selena didn't stop. She pressed her deeper into the couch, groaning into her skin as she too came, frantic and messy, their bodies slick and trembling. When it was over, Selena collapsed against her, flushed and satisfied, her voice soft against Amara's skin. "I knew we still had it." Amara stroked her hair once, the motion automatic as her chest tightened. Do we? Later, as Selena hummed in the shower, Amara sat on the couch in the dim light. The air still smelled of sweat and smoke from the stove. Her thighs aching, her body still humming, but her mind clinging to the small slips. Closing her notebook, she turned off the lamp and let the darkness settle heavy around her. Chapter 3. First Spark. Oil hissed sharp in the pan, the scent of frying plantain rising sweet and heavy. Selena stood close, one hand steadying the spatula, the other brushing Amara's hip as she leaned past her. You're cutting those too thick, she teased, her eyes glinting. Amara smirked, not looking up. Then do it yourself. Selena pinched a slice of plantain, blew on it, then pressed it to Amara's lips. Taste. Her mouth parted, the sweetness melting against her tongue. But it was the heat in Selena's gaze that lingered longer. She leaned closer, brushing a kiss across her jaw. Quick but charged. It could have been enough. For a moment, Amara almost let herself sink into it, until the phone buzzed on the counter, screen lighting. Selena silenced it too quickly. Work, she muttered. Amara stirred the onions harder than she meant to. Of course. Selena's lips lingered when she kissed her shoulder, as if to erase the moment, but the seed had already taken root. She slid her notebook across the cafe table, clicking her pen. This was routine, just another profile for the magazine. Cassie sat across from her, wearing a loose blouse that eased at the collarbone. A single silver cuff held the light and then let it go. She didn't fidget. She occupied the space like she'd been born to it. When she looked up, her gaze didn't search. It settled. Amara heard her own breath before she heard her voice. Tell me, she began, keeping it even. What first drew you to fractured forms? Cassie did not answer, yet. She tipped her head as if listening for the true shape of the question. Nothing whole stays interesting. She gave the faintest smile. Cracks show the light. The sentence sat down between them and stayed a bit before Amara wrote it, slower than she meant to. Her pen leaving a darker stroke at the end of the line as if the word had weight. Your influences? She asked, sipping water she didn't want. Cassie's eyes didn't shift. Desire. She let the word stand alone. The body, when it wants, pausing a beat. The silence after someone leaves. Amara's hand paused above the page. The cafe carried on around their table, milk steaming, a plate set down too hard. Yet the sound reached her unannounced. She nodded once, as if that could steady what it moved. So art for you is... Cassie leaned in by a fraction, voice finding a lower register that made the table feel smaller. Hunger, she said. The kind that burns low. Heat gathered in Amara's belly as if the room had changed its weather. She shifted, but wrote the word anyway. And what, she managed, do you want your work to do? Cassie's gaze swept down, wrist, knuckles, the pen she held, then returned to Amara's eyes, and held. To stay on the body, she said. To be remembered where hands have touched. The air thickened. Amara blushed, her pen trembling against the page. Cassie smiled faintly, like she'd felt the shift. You ask good questions. She let the silence hang, then added, slowly, "Even the ones you don't say." Amara's pulse pounded. She clicked her pen closed, ending the interview before she could betray herself further. Selena was curled on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling, the glow lighting her face. "How was the interview?" she asked, eyes still on the screen. "It was amazing," Amara said. "This artist is kind of peculiar, in an interesting way," keeping her voice carefully neutral. Selena hummed, not pressing. She shifted, making space for Amara beside her. She sat, leaned back, and tried to breathe steady. The ceiling fan whirred above. Selena's scrolling flicked, soft, steady. But inside, her body hummed, low and insistent, with Kessie's voice. Artist hunger, remembered in the places hands have touched. Beside her, Selena's thigh pressed into hers. Amara didn't move. She only closed her eyes, playing the interview again in her head. Selena 4, Splintered Nights. The call came just after 8. "Work's running late," Selena said, her voice light, almost too practiced. "I'll grab something with the team and head home after." Amara sat at the table, pen resting against her notebook. The explanation was neat and harmless. Too neat, too harmless. "Don't stay out too long," she murmured, not asking, nor pressing. Selena laughed, responding softly, "I won't." But Amara heard the pause before the call ended, the breath that carried more weight than words. As the hotel room door closed shut, he was on her before she could breathe, his mouth crushed against hers, hard and hungry, his hands already yanking at her blouse. She moaned against him, fingers tangled in his shirt, pulling it open. Selena gasped into his kiss, half from shock, half from want. He muttered, "Damn, you're..." his lips sliding down her throat. He growled against her ear, breath hot, his hands sliding rough between her thighs. Selena gasped as his fingers pressed through her skirt, rubbing hard. "Tayo," she choked, her body tilting toward his hand, craving it. He pushed her against the wall, his fingers finding her bare beneath. One sharp thrust inside and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. "Fuck, you're wet," he muttered, biting her neck, sucking until her skin burned. Her hips bucked against his hand, the pace brutal, relentless, heat spreading fast through her belly, shaking her legs. "Don't stop." He didn't. He shoved her toward the bed, stripping her skirt, his movements fast and demanding. His mouth found her in one slick stroke. Selena arched off the sheets, a ragged moan tearing from her throat. His tongue was greedy, his fingers pumping in rhythm until she was thrashing, sheets twisting in her fists. "Oh God," she gasped, her climax crashing fast, sharp, leaving her trembling. Tayo didn't pause. He flipped her, pushed her onto her knees, dragged himself through her slick heat before driving into her with one deep, punishing thrust. Selena cried out, her palms slapping the headboard as the force rocked her forward. He gripped her hips tight, pulling her back into each thrust, harder, faster, the sound of skin on skin filling the room. He growled, his voice rough, his teeth clenching as he slammed into her. Her hair stuck to her face, sweat dripping down her back. Her moans grew hoarse. She met his thrust, frantic, desperate, chasing the edge again. When it came, it shattered her, a violent rush that left her collapsing into the mattress, body shaking, legs giving way. Tayo groaned, driving deep one last time before spilling hot inside her. He fell against her back, breath ragged, both of them slick and trembling. For a moment the room was nothing but sweat, gasps, and the pounding echo of their bodies. Then the silence came. Selena lay there, chest heaving, skin still burning, but the hollowness seeped in almost immediately. She rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling, her pulse slowing, her body sore. Tayo smirked, dragging a hand down her thigh. Fucking perfect. She forced a breathless laugh, but the ache in her chest grew louder. The apartment was quiet when she slipped inside. She undressed quickly, the scent of hotel soap still clinging faint on her skin. Amara stirred as she slid beneath the sheets. Selena reached out, brushing her hair back, pressing the softest kiss on her shoulder, a tenderness she hadn't given all night. Half asleep, Amara murmured something gentle, shifting closer. Selena's chest tightened. Her throat ached. What she found in that hotel room was fire, reckless and consuming. But here, in this bed, in this home, this was history. This was heart. She lay awake, caught between the burn of one and the weight of the other, while Amara's breathing evened out beside her. Chapter 5. Hollow Weekend. Saturday gathered, slow and warm. The light in Ikoyi had a lazy tilt, the kind that made everything look a little softer, like the city had exhaled and decided, for a few hours at least, not to rush them. They took the short drive to the market, the windows half down. Music leaked from passing cars. A hawker jogged into the road with cold drinks balanced in a red bowl. Selena drove one-handed, tapping the steering wheel to an old song. She looked like the version of herself Amara had fallen for. Bright, quick, impossible to ignore. 5 minutes, Selena said, finding a spot between a wobbling keke and a dented Corolla. In and out. Amara said, already smiling, because there was never such a thing as 5 minutes in a Lagos market. Inside, the place breathed its own weather, humid and alive. Fabric stalls loosened in bright waves of adire and Ankara. Vendors called out prices with the musical certainty of people who had already decided what you would pay. They drifted together through the noise without trying, hips brushing in the tide of bodies. Selena reached for Amara's wrist when the crowd surged, thumb stroking the soft inside like it belonged there. "Madam Fine," a woman sang from behind a pyramid of mangoes. "Come taste sweetness." Selena arched a brow. "She's talking to you." "Liar," Amara said, laughing. She picked up a mango, pressed the dark freckled skin. "2 of these," she told the vendor, "and 1 pineapple, please." They haggled because that was the dance. They overpaid because time was worth more than winning. At another stall, Selena leaned in and fed Amara a slice of chilled orange, the juice running sweet down her tongue. "Better?" she asked, with a lazy smile. "Almost," Amara said, keeping her face straight. "Try harder." Selena bit the other half of the orange, then kissed her. Quick. The tang of fruit passing from mouth to mouth. It should have been nothing, a small market kiss in a crowd that didn't care, but heat flashed low in Amara's belly, surprising in its clarity. She smiled, despite herself, then bumped Selena with her shoulder in that way that meant, "Don't get cocky." They bought soft bread, still warm from a street oven, and ate it between stalls, tearing it with their hands, butter melting in the center. When Selena licked a smear from her thumb, Amara pretended not to notice the way her own breath stuttered at the sight. At the fabric tables, a seller unfurled a length of deep indigo adire, the resist patterns like constellations. "You," Selena said, holding it to Amara's shoulders, her eyes bright. "This is you." "You think everything blue is me." "Not everything," Selena said softly. "Just the things I want to see every day." The sentence landed like a hand against Amara's sternum, warm and careful. She let it sit there. They let themselves be a couple who bought too much fruit and a piece of cloth for no reason other than needing beauty in a place that was already saturated with it. Back in the car, Selena leaned across the console and kissed Amara again. Longer this time, not market quick. It almost tipped from sweetness into want. Almost. "Home?" Selena asked. "Home," Amara said. They made the kitchen into a small theater, music low, knives bright, the bright wet of pineapple on the cutting board. Amara's hands worked the fruit with unthinking skill. Selena brushed past her, reaching for the salt, for the pepper, for nothing at all. Just to touch. Sometimes the touch was a palm at Amara's back. Sometimes it was a casual claim at her hip that lingered 1 second too long. "Did you end up at Tara last night?" Amara asked, casual, as she slid pineapple chunks into a bowl. Selena didn't look up. No, just bites with the team in Yaba. That small spot near the office." "Right," Amara said. "The one with the neon wall." "Exactly." Selena smiled, relieved, flicking water from her fingers. "They've changed the menu again." Later, while wrestling a stubborn jar of pepper, Selena said, "Tayo hates that place, remember? The AC is too cold. We ended up in the lobby bar." After Amara's hand stilled on the bowl. "Lobby bar?" Selena blinked, then looked down like the jar suddenly required devotion. "Not lobby. I meant, downstairs. I always call it lobby. It's the..." She twisted the lid too hard. "The same place. You know how I mix up names." Amara said. The lid came free with a small pop. Selena laughed like that was the funny part. "See?" Persistent. The jollof they cooked tasted like they were showing off for each other. Selena took pictures, steam curling from the pot. She hooked her chin on Amara's shoulder, mouth close to her ear. "We used to do this every weekend," she said. Almost wonder in it, almost apology. "We still can," Amara said. "I want to," Selena replied, too quickly, as if speed proved sincerity. They ate barefoot, leaning on the counter, passing the same fork back and forth like they didn't own 24 others. The meal was messy and good, the kind that made you close your eyes half a second longer than was reasonable. When Selena's knee nudged between Amara's legs under the lip of the counter, it felt like an accident. When it stayed, it didn't. "Don't," Amara whispered, though she hadn't decided what she meant. "Don't stop, or don't do this here where feeling anything will tear me open again." Selena withdrew the knee at once, contrite, then lifted Amara's hand, planting a kiss on the heel of her palm like an apology. They cleaned in sync, music looping around them. Selena spun Amara once, ridiculous in a kitchen gone slick with dishwater and steam, and Amara let herself laugh. Really laugh, because refusal felt like cutting through water. Selena's mouth found the curve beneath Amara's ear. She jolted, a straight hit of heat rushing through her. Small touches, little fires. A day that looked like the life they'd promised to build. Chapter 6. The Canvas. Morning at the office came in with the steady click of keyboards and the low hiss of the espresso machine 2 doors down. Amara slipped her bag under the desk, opened her laptop, and pulled up the folder she'd titled New Voices. She clicked one open. The screen flooded with muted blue, a seam of raw linen running through it like a breath held almost let go. Her pulse changed. This was Kessie's. She began to take notes, composition, palette, line. But what came out were other words: pulse, heat, aftertouch. She drafted a message before she could second guess it. Following up on our interview, editor wants more images and process notes. Could we meet at your studio or a cafe? A. The reply landed quickly. Come by the space in Lekki. The light is better than coffee. 2 hours later, she was in a rideshare, crossing the bridge, lagoon bright as hammered metal. Lekki arrived with its clean lines and construction dust, new glass shrugging off sun. The gallery sat back from the road behind a low hedge, its sign small enough that you had to be looking for it. The space was white, echoing, cool with fresh paint. Tape lines marked the floor. A ladder leaned against the wall, half-finished canvas propped nearby. Kessie was already there, her sleeves pushed to the elbow, a smear of ivory paint ghosting the back of one hand. She wore black, loose, precise, like the clothes knew what they were doing. Her eyes found Amara with that same steadiness as before, not weighing, not hunting, holding. You made it, she said. Light's better than coffee, Amara answered, surprising herself. I wanted to see what you meant. Kessie's mouth curved, slowly. You'll see. They walked the space together, new canvases taller than Amara had expected, the scale quietly arrogant. Up close, the surfaces showed their scars, scraped edges, pulled threads, layers rubbed until they glowed faint. Tell me about your process, Amara asked, flipping open her notebook because it gave her hands a reason to exist. Slow, Kessie said, and then not. Can you be more specific? I start with the body, its memory of pressure, ache, relief. Then I ruin it until it tells the truth. Amara wrote ruin/truth and pretended her skin didn't heat at the word pressure. Your palate is restrained here. Restraint is a kind of invitation. And the fractures? Cassie glanced at her. Edges remember better than centers. The assistant drifted away. A strip of tape peeled from a corner with a soft rip. Somewhere in the back, a compressor shuddered and died. Amara moved to the next canvas, compelled by the line that ran diagonally through it, like a road cutting clean across open ground. How do you know when you're done? Cassie stepped closer, near enough for Amara to catch a hint of something like rain on hot stone. When my pulse slows. Not when it's perfect. Perfect is sterile. She shifted, and the space between their bodies changed temperature. I want breath. Residue. Residue, Amara repeated, and her pen nearly slipped from her fingers. Cassie nodded toward the painting. The stain you remember after you wash your hands. Amara held her ground, her gaze staying on the surface, but her awareness had already rearranged itself around Cassie's nearness. Talk to me about influence. Legos, Cassie said. The noise you can't ignore. Hands that brush you in a crowd. And people? Sometimes. Sometimes. Amara looked up then. Cassie's eyes didn't move. Presence can be a material. Amara swallowed. She wrote nothing. The world narrowed to a field of color. She felt a heartbeat that wasn't entirely hers. The shape of a mouth that didn't need to speak to be heard. She tried to push back into safe territory. Editor wants a sense of your routine. Hours, process, what your days look like. Cassie turned as if measuring the light. I work when the room is listening. Morning usually, night if I can't help it. The line pricked. Amara made herself right. Listening room. You mentioned hunger last time. I did. Is this hunger? She managed to say, pointing to an unfinished painting. Cassie's answer was barely above a murmur. This was painted for the place where skin remembers being wanted. She kept her voice level. May I photograph the studio? Hands, tools, that kind of thing? You may. Cassie held out her palm. The paint smear had dried to a thin, pale scab of pigment. Start where the work actually happens. Amara lifted her phone, her hand shaking once, small, visible only to her. She shot Cassie's hand, the edge of a blade, a tray of rags stained like maps. When she looked up, Cassie was closer again, watching her with the softest focus. Does this feel like work? Cassie asked. It is work, Amara said quickly. Of course. Amara capped her pen like she was putting something away. This is enough for the feature. Thank you for making time. My pleasure, Cassie said without hurry. Send me the proofs. I will. They stood there, a second longer than logistics required. Then, Amara stepped back first, because someone had to. Chapter 7. Flicker. The magazine layout glowed against Amara's laptop, the cursor blinking like it was taunting her. She had promised herself she'd get through the draft before Monday, but every line she wrote unraveled into distraction. Her notes on Cassie's work were supposed to be clinical. Scale, palette, influence. Instead, the page filled with words that didn't belong in an art review. Pulse. pressure, hunger. She pressed delete until the lines vanished, but her body kept remembering them anyway. The apartment was quiet except for the whir of the ceiling fan and the occasional murmur of traffic outside. Selena was in the other room. On a call Amara had tuned out. That suited her. She needed space. Or at least she told herself that. Her phone buzzed once against the desk. She glanced down. The message was short, no greeting. Light was better today. Thought of your questions. Amara's stomach pulled tight. She told herself it was just professional courtesy, nothing more. But her fingers hovered over the screen longer than they should have. She typed back. Deadlines have me chained. Hope the room listened too. The dots appeared, then disappeared. Amara shifted in her chair, crossing and uncrossing her legs, her throat dry. She turned her phone face down, as if that erased the hum rising low in her body. That night, Selena tried. She'd made dinner, nothing fancy, just yam porridge spiced hot enough to sting, and poured Amara a glass of wine. She even laughed at herself, reaching across the table to touch Amara's wrist mid-joke. The touch lingered. Amara looked down at the hand, warm and familiar. History was in it. Anniversaries, lazy Sundays, quiet mornings. She wanted to believe that was enough. Later that night, Selena didn't wait for an invitation. She rolled into Amara's side, mouth on her throat, lips parting until every kiss left heat blooming. Her thighs slid between Amara's legs, slow at first, then pressing with a steady rhythm that made her gasp. Amara's fingers found Selena's back, nails dragging lightly, guiding her closer. Selena's hands moved with hungry patience, pushing Amara's shirt up inch by inch, pausing to taste the skin she revealed. Their hips met in a grinding cadence, friction building until the sheets bunched. Selena moved with a kind of urgency that begged to be believed. Every kiss wetter, every touch deeper, as if she could carve away the silence with her body. Amara let herself be taken into it, lips finding Selena's, open and fevered, their tongues tangling in a rhythm that matched the rolling of their hips. Heat pooled low in her belly, sharp and demanding, until every nerve pulled tight. Every sound in the room was breath and skin. Her hand slipped lower, beneath the waistband, fingers finding her wet, stroking in slow circles that made Amara's thighs clamp tight. She cried out, head tipping back, clutching at Selena's shoulders as her body unraveled. The orgasm rushed through her, shaking her to the core, her breath breaking in shudders against Selena's mouth. She held her through it, whispering her name like a vow, then pressed herself harder, chasing her own release. Their bodies rocking together until she broke, her cry muffled in Amara's neck, body trembling against hers. For a moment after, the world was only the throb of their hearts, the heat of their skin, the taste of sweat and wine still on their lips. Selena curled against her, satisfied, a soft hum in her throat. See, she whispered, almost pleading. We're still us. Amara's body hummed. She felt spent, but alive. Her eyes stayed open in the dark, replaying words that weren't Selena's. As the ceiling fan turned and the silence stretched, her chest ached with the truth she wouldn't say. History held her here, but gravity was pulling her elsewhere, and she was already tilting. Chapter 8. Cross Currents. Traffic pulsed like a tide against her car. Horns blared. Hawkers tapped at windows. A boy darted between bumpers with Gala balanced on his head. From the roadside, a woman argued over mangoes, while a preacher's megaphone cracked the morning air. "Repent! Repent!" Amara rolled her window down. Exhaust, frying oil, and sea brine drifting in. Familiar and heavy. She thought of her father's steady hand on the wheel, teaching her to cut across lanes without hesitation. Of her mother, humming as she parted her hair into neat rows. The sound as constant as breath. Once, the city's chaos had steadied her, reminded her of why she wanted to tell stories. Now, even its certainty felt like noise. At the office, her editor's voice cut sharp. "That feature, how far?" "I'm still working on it," Amara answered too quickly. She opened her draft. The words stared back. Each line curved towards something she couldn't name. "Hey." BC leaned against her cubicle with bright eyes. "You look like someone possessed." Amara laughed, a beat too long. "Deadlines." "Deadlines don't make you blush, Abby." BC tapped the mock-up on her desk. Amara swallowed. "The work is compelling." BC grinned. "Just don't forget to eat, oh. Possession burns calories." When she left, the warmth lingered. Amara stared at her screen, the hum of the office dimming until all she could feel was her pulse answering to color fractured into ache. During lunch, her phone sat warm in her hand. She didn't send a message. She only scrolled back, rereading the line that wouldn't let her go. The kind that stays hot even after you walk away. Her thumb hovered. She locked the screen, set it down, picked it up again, locked it once more. Her fingers circled the rim of her coffee mug, the gesture a memory she didn't want to own. That evening, Selena told a story about a colleague's mishap, laughter bubbling easy. She touched Amara's arm mid-sentence, her warmth steady, familiar. Amara smiled, leaned in, but her thoughts drifted elsewhere. Not on Kessie exactly, but on the ache of who she was becoming. Chapter 9. Tremors. She woke before Amara. The room quiet except for the low hum of the fan and the sound of her wife breathing steady beside her. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, then slipped carefully from the sheets. She moved through her routine like armor, shower, blouse, a swipe of lip balm, the small ritual of selecting earrings. She told herself this day would be ordinary. She'd go to the office, keep her head down, and stay out of trouble. She didn't think of Tayo. She didn't let herself. By the time she was in traffic, scrolling through emails between red lights, her resolve felt solid. Just work. Just the life she'd built. Her phone buzzed at mid-morning. The first message from last night still sat unopened. Now the second blinked on her screen. In VI, got an hour between meetings. She stared at it until the words blurred. She didn't answer right away. She put the phone down to catch her breath. I'll see him and end it. The lie was neat, efficient, but she clung to it like purpose as she grabbed her bag and left the office. The air outside was thick with heat. Selena spotted him before he saw her, leaning against the bar in the hotel's open front lobby, a glass of water in his hand, making a waitress laugh. From behind, he looked infuriatingly composed. Shirt crisp, trousers pressed, shoes catching the light like he'd stepped out of an advert. The sight hit her low and hard, as though her body had been waiting for permission to remember. Her thighs tightened, her breath shortened. Whatever firmness she had carried through the morning dissolved in an instant. By the time he turned and caught her eye, her steps were already carrying her forward. The lobby smelled of polish as cold air pumped heavy from the vents. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, restraint fell away. They didn't speak. Selena shoved her bag down first, fingers already at the buttons of her blouse. Tayo kicked the door shut with his heel, tearing his shirt free of its tuck, belt buckle clinking as he yanked it loose. They undressed like fire-consuming paper, fast, messy, urgent. Each tug a confession of how long they had wanted, how long they had lied to themselves. Her bra strap snapped loose under his hands. She pushed his trousers down in one swift drag. They laughed once, breathless, the kind of laugh that belonged only to people about to sin. He pressed her against the wall, mouth hard on hers, tongue digging deep. She clawed at his back, nails dragging lines he hissed into. He caught her wrist above her head for a moment, testing, not restraining. Then let her go, just to feel her grab him harder. She shoved him back, sending him stumbling onto the bed. She climbed astride him, grinding down, wetness against him, her head thrown back. His hands clamped to her hips, groaning, trying to guide. She didn't let him. Instead, she set the rhythm, slow at first, then faster, taunting him with the wet heat he couldn't yet enter. "Selena," he growled, voice cracking. She smirked, bit her lip, and slid down onto him in one sharp stroke. The air left them both at once, raw, reckless, no barrier. He cursed low, gripping her ass, driving her down harder. She rode him with abandon, headboard thudding against the wall, every slap of skin loud in the cold room. Sweat slicked their bodies, his chest hot under her palms. He flipped her without warning, pinning her to the mattress, thrusting hard enough to rock the frame. She arched, moaning, nails raking down his arms. His mouth found her throat, sucking bruises she'd try to hide later. "You need this, don't you?" he muttered against her skin, his voice dark. "Yes. Oh, don't stop." She gasped, hips snapping to meet him. Harder. He obeyed, pounding her until her body shattered around him, climax ripping through her sharp and loud. She clung to him, begging, cursing, whispering his name brokenly against his ear. He held out, teeth gritting, then lost it. Groaning deep, he spilled into her, pressing her down into the mattress as though he could brand her body with the weight of his. Silence dropped heavy, filled only by the hum of the air conditioner and their uneven breaths. The smell of sex clung thick, mingling with the faint hiss of rain beginning on the windows. Selena lay back, chest heaving. The ache that had driven her here was gone, but in its place, guilt. She turned her face away, whispering to herself more than to him. "This is the last time." Tayo only smirked, kissed her shoulder, and murmured, "We'll see about that." Her stomach tightened, because part of her already knew he was right. Chapter 10. Fault Lines. Tayo sprawled across the bed, one arm bent behind his head, a smirk tugging at his mouth. He reached lazily for the pack of cigarettes on the nightstand, shaking one free. Selena was already dressed, her bag slung over her shoulder as she stood by the door, spine stiff. You'll be back, he said, lighting up, voice rich with smoke and cocky certainty. She turned, her gaze cutting sharp. This can't happen anymore. For a beat, his smirk slipped, then returned like armor. He exhaled a stream of smoke toward the ceiling. Say that if you want. We'll see. Selena didn't answer. She pulled the door open and stepped into the hall, letting it click closed behind her. Lago's evening pressed in heavy as she drove. Danfoss swerving loud and reckless, smoke curling from roadside suya stands. Her thighs still ached from him. The salt of his sweat still clung to her skin. Every reminder felt like evidence. Soap won't wash this away. She gripped the wheel harder, jaw tightening. Her mind flicked to Amara, her soft laugh at dinner, the way she reached out mid-sentence, warm hand against her arm. That was what she'd risked. Not just a marriage, not just a life. Her anchor. By the time she crossed back into Ikoyi, the ache for Tayo had dulled to nothing. What remained was guilt, thick, pulsing, impossible to silence. Later that evening, Amara suggested they step out. There's a comedy thing at the open bar in VI, just for a bit. Selena agreed too quickly, as though normalcy could be earned by saying yes. The terrace buzzed with bodies and noise, the air electric with laughter breaking in waves. A string of bulbs lit the stage where a young comic paced, mic in hand, voice rolling out punchlines that cut the night open. Amara laughed easily, her head tilting back, the sound warm and unguarded. She leaned against Selena once, shoulder to shoulder, sharing heat in the crowd. For a moment, it almost felt like the way things had been, before the cracks, before the lies. Selena smiled too, clapped at the right times, even sipped her drink with a practiced ease. But her chest was tight. Every joke about secrets landed like a stone. She laughed on cue, but the sound felt brittle in her own ears. Her eyes strayed sideways to Amara. The way the stage glow lit her profile, the way her smile curved, the shimmer of tears at the corner of her eyes from laughing too hard. It all struck Selena like a blow. Her throat ached. Not with longing, not with lust, with regret so fierce it hollowed her out. She looked away quickly, but the image clung. The comic landed another joke and the terrace roared. Amara bent forward, laughter spilling free. Selena's hands tightened around her glass until her knuckles ached. Guilt burned hotter than any affair. Chapter 11. The Crossing. The afternoon had gone soft around Freedom Park. Sun pooled on the grass in patches, warm where it landed, cool where the palms threw their shadows. A brass band somewhere near the bandstand tuned half-heartedly, horns testing a scale that never quite committed. A kite tugged its owner toward the sky, tail flicking like a fish. Amara lay on the blanket with a book open across her palm, thumb holding her place. She read a page and drifted a sentence, read the sentence again, and let it slip anyway. The words were good, but right now, the world was better. Selena knelt beside the basket, humming a tune Amara almost knew. She unscrewed a bottle of water, set out mango in a plastic tub, and tore open the paper to let the fried dough breathe. "Taste," she said, offering a piece between her fingers. Amara leaned forward to take it, her mouth brushing Selena's knuckles. "You'll spoil me." "That's the plan." Selena smiled, bright and easy, arranging things with the care of someone determined to get the small parts right. The smile lingered a second too long, then dimmed to something gentler. If there was strain beneath it, Amara didn't see. She was already back to her book, or pretending to be. Remind me what you're reading, Selena asked, settling onto the edge of the blanket, one leg tucked beneath her, the other reaching into the grass. Essays, Amara said. A woman writing about cities and the bodies that move through them. Sounds like you, Selena teased. This one has less deadlines and more wisdom, Amara said, smiling. She slid the book face down on the blanket and let her gaze move over her wife. The line of Selena's throat as she swallowed water. The small crease at the corner of her eye when she glanced toward the bandstand. The way her fingers, the same ones that had steadied Amara through fever, now turned a piece of mango until the juice ran and gleamed. She felt, briefly, the quiet satisfaction of an ordinary day, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind you only recognize by the way your body loosens, by the way breath sits lower in your chest. Perhaps this, she thought, is the point of longevity. Not fireworks. Weather. Selena offered her another slice. As Amara leaned forward, Selena's mind slipped. Late nights. Not the glamorous kind, just the pallid hum of office lights and the drag of an overworked printer trying to make a deadline no one would thank. The city outside a smear of headlights along Ahmadu Bello. Inside, the whir of the AC and the sound of Tayo's laugh cutting through everything like a bass line he didn't need permission to play. She hadn't been missing anything at home. That was the worst of it. Amara was still Amara, present, warm, steady in her way. But Selena had found a restlessness she couldn't name and mistook it for a hunger she had to feed or be eaten by. Tayo had become the place she went to be reckless without thinking, to lean into a heat that demanded nothing but yes. The first time happened fast, hand on hers when passing a set of proofs, the way neither of them moved away. When the rains came one night, he offered her a ride in a car smelling of cologne and smoke, with music too loud. She thought she'd turn deaf by the time she reached home. He'd parked under a tree near her block. When he leaned close, she didn't stop him. It wasn't love, God no. It wasn't even anything like longing that had a face or a future. It was a risk she put in her mouth and swallowed, the kind that fades quickly and leaves your hands shaking. Each time after that was the same bargain. No stories, just a choice that felt like velocity and afterward felt like a cliff. Selena blinked herself back to find Amara watching her with the soft focus of someone content. What? Selena asked, brushing hair from her face with the back of her wrist. Nothing, Amara said. You look sunlit. She shrugged, embarrassed by the honesty of it, and reached for her water. I was thinking, she added, too casually for it to be truly casual. About us. About expanding the web. Selena felt the word expand enter her like a bright knife. She set the mango tub down and wiped her fingers slow on a napkin. What do you mean? A child, Amara said, eyes still on the kite so she wouldn't spook the moment. Not now. But I see you on a day like this and I think we could hold more. Our home could. Selena's breath caught so quietly it didn't even make sound. For a heartbeat she saw both rooms at once. This park, her wife's knee warm against her thigh. The air stitched with laughter. And a hotel she would pretend never existed. Windows fogged. A body she'd let close because it made everything else go silent. The shame came quickly and clean and total. Maybe, she said, too lightly. She reached as if to adjust the blanket, covering the beat she'd left open. "We could talk about it. When your feature wraps and my quarter calms down." Amara nodded, pleased to place the idea in the future where it could stay safe and glow. "No rush," she agreed, picking her book up and using it to fan them both. "Just thinking out loud." Selena watched the kite fishtail and climb, watched the string bow and recover. She was good at this, at looking like the life she wanted. The trick, she knew, was not to flinch in the small pauses where truth might fit. "Here," she said, feeding Amara half a puff-puff, laughing when the sugar dusted her lip. She brushed it away with her thumb and rested her hand there a second longer than necessary. "Sunlit," she repeated, as if the word belonged to both of them now. The band finally committed to a melody. A slow high lifeline wandered out, sweet as a remembered youth. The breeze arrived late in the afternoon and lifted the edges of the blanket, then set them down again. "Read to me," Selena said. Amara obliged, voice low and clear. Sentences about sidewalks and bodies, and the way certain corners held their own weather. She read until the words warmed the air between them. When she looked down, Selena was watching her, the same careful brightness in place. Amara leaned over, a brief press of cheek to shoulder, the easy intimacy of habit. She didn't feel the tremor under it, the way Selena had to breathe around guilt, like a bruise that a shirt kept brushing. A child's ball rolled to their feet and Amara sent it back with a small kick and a wave. The boy grinned and ran. The kite dipped, the owner corrected, the sky went on holding everything up. Selena laughed at the small things. Amara mispronouncing a name, the band missing a beat, and the sound landed bright in the open air. She laced their fingers without looking and held on. From where Amara sat, the day felt whole. From where Selena sat, it felt like mercy, given to someone who hadn't asked for it and didn't deserve it, and wanted it anyway. The kite rose. The horn found the right note. Across the blanket, the shadow of a palm frond moved inch by inch up Selena's forearm, as if the afternoon were keeping time. Amara turned a page and thought, this is how a future starts. Not with a plan, but with a sentence you say out loud and don't take back. Chapter 12. The Break. The evening was ordinary in a way that almost felt precious. Selena had brought home fried yam and peppered fish from a roadside stand, and they ate cross-legged on the couch with the fan pushing humid air across their skin. A Nollywood comedy played on the TV, the laugh track too loud, the story too familiar, but Amara found herself laughing anyway. Selena laughed with her, sharing a bottle of beer between their hands. It was the kind of night that could have belonged to any year of their life together. Careless, comfortable, the world outside kept at bay. Then Selena's phone buzzed against the cushion. Neither of them reached for it at first. Then it buzzed again, and again. Amara, mid-laugh, glanced without meaning to. Just enough. Thinking about last time. You were fire. I missed that. The words seared, bright as a flare. Selena snatched the phone up too quickly, thumb pressing it dark. Her face broke in the act of hiding. It's work, she said, the word brittle, cracking. Amara's laughter cut clean off. She placed her bottle carefully on the table, as though not to spill, as though balance mattered when the world had already tilted. She spoke quietly, but each syllable was sharp as glass. Work doesn't remember the way you burn. The room throbbed with silence. The TV laugh track turned shrill, absurd, until Selena muted it. She leaned forward, elbows braced on her knees, her head bowed. "Mara," she whispered. "It was a mistake." She turned toward Amara, eyes wet, lips trembling like the words couldn't hold. "I didn't break us. I came home. Every time, Amara. I came home." Amara leaned in, not touching, just close enough that her breath brushed Selena's cheek. Her voice was hoarse, stripped bare. "And that's supposed to mean something." Selena's body bent forward, her whole frame aching to collapse into Amara, to beg with her skin what her words couldn't. Nothing moved but their breath. The fan clicked in its sweep. Selena's fingers twitched like they wanted to reach, but Amara was already on her feet. The soft jangle of keys was the only sound when she left. No slam, no accusation. Just absence, spilling across the room like smoke. He drove until the city blurred, neon streaking along wet asphalt, billboards screaming in bright colors, the air thick with suya smoke and exhaust. She gripped the wheel too tight, chest aching, heart bruised. By the time she stopped, she didn't know how she'd chosen the place. A bar with a flickering sign, a generator thumping outside. The kind of place you could vanish into without trying. Inside, the room was packed, bodies pressed close as sweat and palm wine stained the air. A host called the next name. Applause rose. Amara froze. Kessie stepped into the light, her hair loose, shoulders bare in a slip of black fabric that caught every glint. She closed her eyes, one hand around the mic, and the room fell into her. "Slowly," she began. Breath enters. Walls draw tight. Not from sound, but from quiet night. A touch mistaken, chance at play, yet echoes rise, won't drift away. Closer now. The air turns deep. Borders blur. The body weeps. Longing carves its hidden name. Fire waits, but burns the same. Nothing stolen, nothing lost. Breath held soft. No weight, no cost. Release ascends, a prayer untamed. Surrender speaks what can't be named. The room was still, every word hanging like smoke. Amara sat frozen, betrayal clawing at her ribs, passion pressing low and heavy. It was unbearable, her wife's infidelity still raw in her chest, yet this voice, this gravity, pulling her toward something she could not unfeel. When Kessie's eyes finally opened, they locked on hers. Amara stumbled to her feet, muttering apologies as she pushed through the crowd into the night. Behind her, the door swung again, footsteps following. Chapter 13. Gravity's Edge. The night pressed close, damp against Amara's skin. She leaned into the plaster wall outside the bar, the applause still echoing faintly inside. Her chest ached, betrayal raw. Casey's voice still threading heat through her veins. Then the door opened. Casey stepped out slowly, as if she'd been expecting her. She didn't speak at first, only came close enough that Amara felt the warmth of her body, a quiet gravity that pulled without touching. "You look heavy," Casey said at last, low, almost kind. Amara shifted, arms folded. Her reply thin. It's nothing. The lie cracked midway, leaving air where words should have been. Casey's mouth curved, not unkind, but knowing. Nothing doesn't look like that. Her tone was light, but something in it brushed deeper, teasing at the edges. Amara dropped her gaze, but silence was its own confession. Casey let it linger, enjoying the weight of it, her presence patient, unhurried. Then, softly, she continued. Some nights don't let you go back the same. The words slid between them like smoke, not explicit, but alive with charge. Amara's throat worked. She didn't answer. She couldn't answer. Casey didn't press. She only stood there, steady, calm, the faintest smile tugging her lips, as if she knew exactly what this silence meant, and enjoyed it. Amara finally pushed off the wall. Keys clutched too tight in her hand, moving toward her car as though escape were possible. When she glanced in the mirror, Casey was still at the curb, lighting a cigarette, smoke curling slow into the night like a promise. Chapter 14. Thin Fire. The apartment was dark when Amara slipped in, the city's hum still buzzing in her blood. She moved without speaking, without explanation. The echo of betrayal sat heavy in her chest, jealousy raw. Casey's velvet voice still sparking through her veins. Selena stirred as Amara slid into bed. You're back, she whispered, half asleep. Amara didn't answer. Her hand was already on her, urgent, insistent. She kissed her hard, pressing her back into the mattress. Selena gasped into the heat of it, startled, then giving in. Amara didn't wait. She moved with a hunger Selena hadn't felt from her in a long time, kissing down her chest, biting lightly at her ribs, tasting the sweat rising on her skin. Her hands gripped Selena's wrists, pinning them, forcing her still while her mouth took what it wanted. Selena moaned, writhing under her, pleading for more. When Amara finally slid lower, pressing her thighs apart, Selena cried out, clutching at the sheets. Amara's tongue was fierce, relentless, pushing her to the edge, pulling her over, only to pull back and start again until Selena begged, incoherent. She owned every gasp, every shudder, her movements sharp with jealousy, but also threaded with the tenderness of possession. Mine, still mine. Selena's body broke for her, trembling hard, slick with heat. When Amara finally let her collapse, she kissed her once, slow and deliberate, before curling away, staring at the ceiling until sleep came. The kitchen smelled of coffee and fried eggs. Sunlight angled sharply across the counter, spilling over Selena's hand as she reached for the sugar. Amara sat opposite her, quiet, her spoon circling the rim of her cup. Then she asked it, voice flat, eyes steady. Who was it better with, me or him? The words struck like a blade. Selena froze, knuckles whitening around her mug. Her mouth opened, closed. No sound. Amara watched the silence do its work. She stood, scraped her chair back, cleared her plate with careful hands, and walked away without another word. Selena stayed at the table, shaking, guilt heavier than breath. The event was routine in theory, a gallery talk, a mixer for the magazine's contributors. But Amara felt brittle, every smile rehearsed. She nursed her glass, scanning the room for distraction. Then Kessie appeared. They crossed paths near a canvas of fractured blues, the kind that looked like storm light breaking through water. Kessie smiled, professional and poised, but her eyes lingered. "Good turnout," she said. "Good work," Amara replied, meaning more than she should. Their words stayed safe, but the air between them shifted. Every glance, every pause carried an undercurrent. Then Kessie leaned in, just enough for Amara to catch the warmth of her perfume. Her voice pitched lower than necessary. "You're carrying something," Kessie said quietly, almost casual. Then, with that teasing restraint that burned hotter than recklessness, "One day you'll let someone touch the weight, and it won't feel so heavy." Amara's breath caught. She looked away too late. They circled one another the rest of the night, their conversation threaded with restraint that felt more dangerous than release. Outside, the air was thick with humidity, the city noisy and alive. They walked side by side until the crowd thinned, shoulders brushing. Kessie let a silence fall between them, then smiled, slowly and knowing, as if she already understood where this was going. Amara slipped toward her car, trembling with the realization. Gravity was winning. Chapter 15. Foundations. Night lay thin over Ikoyi, bringing along a film of heat even the AC could not cool. The generator, 2 compounds over, throbbed like a slow heart. Mosquito coils smoldered on the balcony, their smoke making faint green question marks against the dark. Amara lay on her side and watched Selena sleep. In rest, her wife looked younger, shoulders unknotted, mouth softened. A tiny scar near her brow, visible only when the room forgot to pretend. The sheet had slipped to her waist. Each breath rose and fell without drama, as if the body knew how to trust, even when the mind did not. Amara let the silence fill with years. They had met on an afternoon that didn't know it was important. Jazz Hole was half empty, a record spinning something patient in the corner. Amara was pretending to read the back of a poetry collection she'd already decided to buy. Selena stood at the counter, arguing, gently and very firmly, about a mislabeled first edition. When she laughed, the sound turned heads without asking to. "You're going to win," Amara said before she could stop herself. Selena turned, that laugh still touching her mouth. "Then it's only fair someone witnesses it." The rain started while they were still talking. One of those sudden Lagos downpours that empties a sky in 30 minutes flat and then acts as if nothing happened. They stayed, drinking coffee with cardamom, while having a conversation that moved like people who already knew the route, from books to music to the late bus on 3rd Mainland and the best place to buy plantain without being cheated. By the time the rain stopped, Amara had memorized the fleck of gold near Selena's left iris, and the way she tucked hair behind her ear when a thought landed. Numbers exchanged felt like a formality, like writing down a thing the body had already agreed to. The first kiss was in a stairwell 2 weeks later. Hiding from a party that had gotten loud, Selena leaned close and said, "We can go back, or we can go somewhere that makes sense." Amara replied hoarsely, "Here is fine." And then it was, and then nothing else mattered. The kiss was not careful, but it wasn't reckless either. It was the kind that knows its name before it's introduced. They built a life the slow way, a rented place near Awolowo Road at first, paint in their hair and on the edges of their nails. A crimson wall they regretted, and then came to love at dusk. Saturday markets where they bargained without mercy, and then overpaid a woman selling mango because her baby was sleeping on her back. The first time the power cut while bread was in the oven, and they ate the dough half raw, laughing. The first real fight, nothing noble, just a stupid accumulation of small unkindnesses, and the apology that took the whole of a night and half the morning after. They learned the choreography of two: whose turn to cook, who remembered birthdays, who woke first when rain battered the windows. They learned the shape of crisis and its antidotes. Silence that wasn't punishment, touch that wasn't demand, the stubborn miracle of soup. They learned to say, "I'm sorry," without a courtroom attached. They learned to say, "I need," without shame. When they moved to this apartment in Ikoyi, they did it on a Tuesday, just to see if the week would bless them for trying. They stood on the balcony with sweating glasses and named things they wanted. Work that didn't grind them flat, sleep without alarms, journeys to Accra and Abidjan and back again, maybe a child if the road met them kindly. They didn't promise always, they promised choice. "We choose each other," Amara had said, her cheek pressed to Selena's temple. "Every day, we choose." On the bed now, Selena murmured in sleep and turned toward her, hand curling over the empty space between them, as if to bridge it without waking. The gesture caught at Amara's throat. Memory did not spare the body. Selena's mouth at the corner of her jaw, the first harmattan they spent, sick and overworked, and somehow hungrier for each other. The way her hands learned patience around Amara's fear of being touched when the world outside felt like a loud room. The night the generator refused to start during a storm, and they lay sweating on the tiles, laughing at nothing, until the laughter turned into something that kept them from drowning. Amara closed her eyes and let the oldest reel play, the one in which love is not spectacle, but practice. Choose. Choose again. Keep choosing until choosing becomes a kind of weather. She opened them to the present and found the thin crack running through everything. It wasn't that the past had lied. It was that time had walked forward and asked new questions. A phone buzzing under a cushion. A message that burned like a flare. The taste of a poem spoken into a room and landing somewhere low in her body. The terrible arithmetic of loyalty and wanting. Selena shifted and exhaled. In the half-light, Amara could see the tiny cowlick that never obeyed, the shadow where laughter usually lived. Love, she thought, and the word didn't cancel the bruise beneath it. She reached across the sheet and brushed hair from Selena's forehead the way she used to, her knuckles barely grazing skin. A simple gesture, muscle memory, a language older than hurt. Her hand trembled. They had built this with intent. Paint swatches and grocery lists, and the complicated piece of being two stubborn people who refused to surrender the weather they hadn't chosen. They had said yes 1,000 ordinary times. They had left notes under mugs and stood in lines and learned the back roads of traffic and each other. And now the yes was complicated by another kind of gravity. On the bookshelf, a slip of paper marked Amara's place in the essay collection she'd been reading. Some truths don't ask permission to be seen. The line had felt like elegance when she first underlined it. Tonight, it felt like a door left ajar. She lay back, watching the ceiling take its slow breath. In the morning, there would be coffee. In the morning, there would be words. Perhaps apologies. Perhaps a map neither of them knew how to draw. She placed her palm flat on the sheet, 1 inch from Selena's hand, not touching. Choice, she thought. We built this on choice, and now choice is what is undoing us. Outside, the generator thudded, steady as a drum. Inside, the room held its breath and did not answer. Chapter 16. Gravity's Breaking Point. Days, or maybe a week later, time blurred in the thick fog of silence. The air between them grew heavy with all that wasn't spoken. Selena tried to bridge it, making Amara coffee, pressing her hand to hers across the table, talking about small things as though they could stitch the larger wound. Finally, she broke. "Talk to me," she whispered, eyes red with sleeplessness. "Please, I can't lose you." Amara's spoon clinked against the mug. Her voice, when it came, was low, almost too calm. "Why did you do it?" Selena's lips parted, her breath sharp. "I was weak, but I came back. Always. I came back to you." Amara lifted her gaze at last, steady and cutting. Was it better with him? The question, landing like a blade. Selena froze. Her face crumpled, then hardened, then cracked again. Her mouth opened, closed, opened. No answer came. "Tell me," Amara pressed, her voice still quiet, still sharp. Was the sex better with him? Selena shook her head quickly, almost violently. "No, it wasn't about, Amara, it wasn't about that. It wasn't him. It was me. I felt empty. I thought I needed something." Her hands trembled as she reached out, fingers hovering in the air between them. "But you're the only one that ever mattered." Amara didn't flinch, but her silence cut deeper than anger. She turned back to her cup, watching the steam curl upward until it disappeared. Selena's chair scraped as she stood, pacing, running both hands through her hair. "I've been sick with guilt. I'm trying to fix this. I'm trying to hold us together. Why won't you let me?" Amara's throat tightened. She swallowed, her voice a whisper of truth she could no longer keep down. "Because you still can't answer." The silence that followed filled every corner of the kitchen, thick with jealousy, hurt, and the raw ache of betrayal. Selena stood trembling, her chest rising in frantic bursts, her shame naked. Amara sat still, unmoving, her heart already leaning toward elsewhere. Chapter 17. The Fall. The days after the confrontation were heavy and airless. The apartment had the stillness of a place already abandoned. Selena tried, brushing Amara's hand at breakfast, pressing a kiss against her temple in passing, forcing little smiles as if they could stitch the air back together. Amara no longer responded. She moved like someone fulfilling a routine, her body present but unreachable. The silence between them had become its own answer. One evening, she slipped her sandals on and said quietly, "I'm going for a walk." No keys slammed, no fight, no raised voices. Selena stood at the doorway, her face broken, but she did not follow. The marriage was already fractured. Amara's body was still here, but her gravity was elsewhere. The bar was low-lit, smoky with candlelight and jazz that throbbed beneath the hum of voices. Amara stepped inside, her pulse quickening with every step. She knew this place. She had heard Casey's words here, the night that had broken something open inside her. If Casey was anywhere, it would be here. And she was. Casey sat at the bar, her shoulders relaxed, hair loose, with a glass of red wine resting between her fingers. She hadn't seen Amara yet. Amara crossed the room slowly, breath shallowed, sliding onto the stool beside her. The space between them closed with a single motion. Casey turned, startled at first. Her eyes widened, then softened as recognition bloomed. "You," she murmured, voice velvet wrapped in surprise. Her gaze searched Amara's face, steady but questioning. "Why are you here?" Amara held her eyes, her throat tight. No answer came. Casey's lips parted as though to ask again, but Amara leaned forward, closing the space with her mouth. The kiss was hesitant, only for a breath. Then it deepened, breaking the silence of weeks with the press of heat. The bar was not empty. People noticed. Some turned away, others lingered. But neither woman pulled back. Heat swelled between them, reckless and raw, until they broke only long enough to breathe. Casey's smile was dangerous and quiet. "Come," she whispered. They left together, the city swallowing them whole. Amara's hand found Casey's, their fingers locking tight. Her body trembled with the knowledge that she was stepping past every line she had drawn for herself. The room door shut with a soft thud, but the moment it clicked, the restraint shattered. They were on each other instantly. Casey pressed Amara against the wall, her mouth fierce, roaming with command. Amara gasped, her head falling back, surrender spilling from her like breath. She felt owned, devoured, yet utterly alive. Casey pulled her closer, then stilled. Her hand firm at Amara's cheek, she searched her eyes, her voice low but steady. "Are you sure this is what you want?" The question hung in the air, hotter than any touch. Amara froze, the ache of desire alive in every nerve, but another weight pressing just as heavy. She lay there, her breath sharp, her mind circling the word that had built and threatened to undo everything. Choice. The night held its breath with her. waiting for the answer. Author's note: desire rarely offers clean lines. It doesn't bow to reason, and it never apologizes. It pulls, it lingers, it consumes. The gravity of desire was written to live in that pull, the heat between bodies, the silences that speak louder than words, the ache of hunger pressed against the weight of history. This is not a story of answers, but of tension, betrayal, and the raw electricity that makes us human. I wanted to write a book that leaves you trembling on the edge of choice, where intimacy is both salvation and undoing, where love and lust blur until you can no longer tell them apart. If the pages left you unsettled, aroused, torn, that is the point. That is the truth. Thank you for surrendering to the fire with me. J. Deline.